The School Innovation and Turnaround Committee is now called to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Dr. BESE? Not present. Mr. Davis?
Present.
Ms. Edmonston?
Here.
Mr. Garvey?
Here.
Ms. Holloway?
Here.
Dr. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Lewis?
I'm here.
Ms. Orange Jones? Not present. Mr. Rock?
Present.
Dr. Thomason?
Present.
Ms. Fauché?
Here.
You have a quorum.
First item, please.
Your consent agenda is ready for your approval, adding item 2.1. So moved.
Second.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Fauché and second by Mr. Rock. Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, please.
Your first item is on page 3, item 3.1. Consideration of revisions to Bulletin 741, Louisiana Handbook for School Administrators regarding home study programs. The department recommendation is to approve as notice of intent.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Rock. Do we have any comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Any comments by the board before? Okay, let's call Bill Bass up, Christy Cross, and Diane Moore. Please introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak. You can start.
Hello, my name is Christy Cross.
I don't know that your light's on. Make sure the green light's shining. There we go.
There we go. Okay. Hi, my name is Christy Cross, and I'm a member and legislative liaison representing Homeschool Louisiana, which is formerly CHEF of Louisiana, the Christian Home Educators Fellowship. I'm an attorney and a home educator for 18 years. I first want to thank BESE and LDE for listening to the concerns that we've had with Bulletin 741 and implementing a solution that is consistent with state statutes, and we support these revisions. Our leadership and members also support the proposed changes to the checkbox requirement on the online application, as it now refers to RS 17-236.1, which is something that I believe they're working on to remedy an issue that a lot of our members had with the online application. As a 501c3 nonprofit ministry, our mission from the beginning in 1983 has been to protect, promote, provide support for the homeschool community in Louisiana. We believe, as recognized by the U.S. Supreme Court, that parents have the right to direct the education and upbringing of their children. Home education is just one of the many ways that we can accomplish this. Because we believe community is a critical component to any successful homeschooling endeavor, we provide educational conferences, parenting workshops, and leadership training to help parents and students navigate the homeschooling process. We're now moving into the second generation of homeschooling families. The success, influence, and goodwill that CHEF of Louisiana, Homeschool Louisiana, has built over these 35 years will be extremely important as we look to work in conjunction with BESE and the Louisiana Department of Education as we move forward, so that every child in Louisiana can have a successful education, whether in public school, private school, or homeschool. We believe that relationship is the most important component, and I want each board member to know that our organization is always available to assist, answer any questions, or address any issues that might arise. We would especially like to thank Ms. Bendeley with LDE for her cooperation and professionalism, as well as the time and effort that she has put into addressing our concerns with this issue. Thank you each for your service, and thank you for your attention, and we support this revision.
Good morning. My name is Bill Bass. I'm on the executive board for Homeschool Louisiana, which is formerly Chef of Louisiana. As a background, my wife and I have homeschooled our 4 children for 4 years, for almost 20 years. 4 children for 20 years, excuse me. I operate a 54-year-old industrial electronics manufacturing company here in Baton Rouge. I'm born and raised in Louisiana. Got a degree in electrical engineering from Louisiana Tech. But as a representative for Homeschool Louisiana, really, we're here just to express our support for the changes to Bulletin 741. And we would especially like to thank Ms. Erin Bendeley for working with us to help update the bulletin to make it consistent with state statutes. And to reiterate from Christy, Homeschool Louisiana is always available to answer any questions or be of service to BESE or LDE. We'd love to be of help. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, my name is Diane Moore, and I'm representing the Louisiana Homeschool Network. Recently, the Louisiana Homeschool Network met with the Assistant Superintendent of Policy to discuss the many incidents of parents being threatened with truancy and pushed into home study as they were asserting their parental authority to direct the upbringing of their children by withdrawing to homeschool. We also brought our concerns about the online application for home study checkbox requiring homeschoolers to agree to Bulletin 741, which is not a requirement found in law. We did not ask for the revisions to the bulletin. We simply asked for the checkbox to be removed, or for the checkbox to have homeschoolers agree to the revised statute. We were surprised that the initial request to simply abide by the law was rejected, but we have been told that the department does now intend to reword the checkbox agreement to abide by revised statute 17236.1. We anxiously await follow-through on this promise, as our position is clear. We will never agree to abide by a bulletin that is not required by law. And let us remind ourselves, since the authority of BESE has become increasingly concerned, what BESE authority is as demonstrated in the state constitution and law. In Article 8, Section 3 of our state constitution, BESE's authority of supervision and control is clearly limited to, I quote, the public elementary and secondary schools and special schools under its jurisdiction. Home schools are clearly not public schools, and although we consider our schools to be very special to us, they are not considered special schools under the law. Special schools are clearly explained in revised statute 17-1945, and nowhere in that law is the mention or description of home study. Special schools are also listed on the Louisiana Division of Administration's website, and again, home schools are not included. Article 8, Section 3 of the Constitution goes on to state that the board shall have other powers, duties, and responsibilities as provided by the Constitution or by law, but the Constitution provides no other authority of BESE over homeschooling except the authority to approve private schools found in Article 8, Section 4. The law is consistent with the Constitution and gives no authority to BESE over homeschooling except to approve home study and to establish procedures for homeschoolers' readmission into the school system as found in revised statutes 17-236, 1 and 2. Chapter 1, Section 101 of Bulletin 741, entitled Purpose, states, quote, policies passed by the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education govern the operation of public elementary, middle, and secondary schools. Bulletin 741, Louisiana Handbook for School Administrators, contains policies for the administration of public schools. It couldn't be clearer. BESE holds no authority over homeschooling except to approve home study and apply readmission criteria to the schools. The requirement to have home study applicants check a box to require us to abide by a document intended for public school administrators is clearly unconstitutional and not required by law. What would be helpful for public school administrators to know in their handbook is that parents may withdraw their children at any time for any reason and are not legally required to show the schools anything at withdrawal. We hope you would consider that information in your discussion of revising Bulletin 741. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any further discussion, questions, comments, concerns? Dr. Jones?
Ma'am, I'm sorry, my ears don't hear as fast as you read. Would you I'm not sure I understand what your objection there is. Could you just encapsulate it and just, you know?
I'm not objecting to the revisions to the bulletin. I'm just giving you information. We didn't ask for revisions to the bulletin. We asked for the checkbox that's on our home study application to either be removed or to be consistent, to just say we're going to abide by the law, and we've been told that that will happen. But we're not really sure why we're in a bulletin for public school administrators, because the only authority of BESE is to approve our home schools and to provide a readmission criteria. Anything else is not in BESE's jurisdiction under the law.
So you don't think that compulsory attendance laws apply to all students, whether they be public or homeschooled?
The compulsory attendance is not what is in question. Home study students and people who are in registered non-publics abide by compulsory education. What I'm talking about is the inclusion of home studies requirements inside a bulletin for public school administrators. There's no need for that there, other than to provide admission criteria back into the school system and withdrawal information, which right now the public schools are doing a very poor job of understanding how home study students can be withdrawn. There's two ways to homeschool in Louisiana, and most schools aren't aware that there's a second option, which is not registering as home study. We've had several parents this year that have had truancies officers called on them for simply trying to withdraw their students to homeschool.
John, can I ask you a question?
Please.
Under the section 3305C, and then down under 3309B, who inside the department actually reviews these annual applications and substantially approves them? Does anyone do that, or is it just a matter of, is it just something that they just send the papers in and we just file it away?
No, we have an individual whose essentially her exclusive responsibility is to review those applications.
And she does do that?
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, could I ask Ms. Benderly to come to the front, please? And I think we could clarify. I'm sorry, what was your name?
Diane Moore.
Tanya?
Diane.
Diane, I'm sorry. Would you state once again what your major issue is and let Ms. Benderly respond, and then we can...
We don't have an issue with the revisions today.
Okay.
Our issue was with the checkbox, which Ms. Benderly has been working with us, and they have agreed to revise the checkbox. There's a checkbox on our application for home study, and prior to this, we had to check the checkbox simply to apply. We were not allowed to apply online without checking this box that said we would agree to abide by Bulletin 741. Bulletin 741 is a handbook for public school administrators.
Okay, so hold right there. So you're in opposition to checking the box that says you have anything to do with Bulletin 741,
yes,
even though Bulletin 741 contains what, Ms. Benderly?
I believe there's been language in Bulletin 741 codifying BESE's responsibilities with regard to this per the law since at least 2005. So I don't think it was a question of should this be in Bulletin. It has been in Bulletin for many years.
That's what I thought.
But this organization...
But the law is very clear. The state constitution, I laid that out in the speech to you, the state constitution only allows BESE authority over public schools and special schools under its jurisdiction. The only authority within the law is to approve home study and to provide readmission criteria. It's very clear in the law.
If I could finish,
okay.
Both organizations came and met with me about a month ago. Both organizations brought copies of this Bulletin 741, specifically highlighting language that they felt was inconsistent with the law. So we appreciated them bringing that to our attention. We agreed to take it up immediately and work with both groups to make sure that we tighten up language where needed. And we felt it was our obligation to make sure that since the language was already in the bulletin, that we had an obligation to make sure that it aligned with the law. And so those are the changes that we're bringing you today.
So basically, the policy aligns with the law?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you in disagreement of that?
No.
I would say that it mostly aligns with the law now.
Okay.
However, if it were to fully align with the law, it wouldn't be in there because it's not needed in a bulletin for public school
And you know
administrators.
what, you may be right about that, but I think that's probably something that needs to be taken up by the legislature and not by this body.
Well, what would be helpful in a bulletin for public school administrators is actually for them to have the information on how homeschoolers are allowed to withdraw, because they don't have that right now.
Okay.
And parents are being threatened, they're being harassed. When we met with Ms. Bendeley, we had 21 incidents across the state already that we knew about, and we probably only know about 10% of the incidents that are happening. I had mothers crying because they had truancy officers on the first day of school. First day of school. You can't even be truant on the first day of school. But these schools had called truancy officers on parents who had withdrawn prior to the beginning of the year and were threatening them on the very first day of school.
Yes, ma'am. I'm
That's
not
unacceptable.
doubting what you're saying. I just think that this is not the body to address what your concern is, and I do understand.
This is the body that controls Bulletin 741. You have the power to look at the law and decide that this is not needed inside Bulletin 741, this information. But there is information that is desperately needed inside Bulletin 741.
Ms. Bendeley, what would you say to that?
That is something that we discussed, and I understand that there may be cases across the state where parents withdraw their children for the purpose of enrolling them in an approved home study program or enrolling them in a non-public school that under the laws of this state has the opportunity but not the obligation to seek state approval. There are two legal options for that in the state of Louisiana. We did agree to work on some guidance that we could share with school systems to make sure that they know of these laws and are educated themselves on the processes and the rights of parents to do this. I also had a very good meeting last week with Mr. Mike Falk. He agreed to work with us on disseminating that information, and we've agreed that after we get beyond this bulletin revision that is something that we will work on, and we'll definitely share that with both organizations as well.
And I'd like to add, Ms. Bendeley has been incredibly helpful with our organization.
I know that y'all have all worked together. I know that. And I agree that everybody needs to be clear on what's going on. I know that's the problem with not just homeschooling, but other things that are covered in bulletins that parents may not understand that school systems do, or vice versa. So, Ms. Bendeley, as long as you're committed to listening to those concerns and letting them help make things clearer for all parties, I think we're good. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all.
Ms. Roche?
I don't have a problem with the language as it exists. I think it's in accordance with law. My question, just this checkbox that everybody's talking about, and it's been alluded to that there'll be some changes. Ms. Bendeley, could you tell us what those changes are?
Sure.
And would that help the whole situation?
It's an IT programming change on our website. Families have the ability to submit either a paper application to apply for approved home study or an online application. The online application does have a box that before they submit that online form to us, it says something to the effect of, I have read and agreed to abide by Bulletin 741, specifically referencing this chapter. We understand that because of some of the alignment issues, families have felt uneasy in checking that box. But in addition to cleaning up the language in Bulletin 741 so that it is aligned to the law, we have also agreed to change the wording on that site so that it refers specifically to the statute.
Okay, so then that should really
clear up.
That should. We are
Yep.
very excited that we've come to this agreement that we will have it abide by the law. Our only other concern is, and I think we've already addressed this with Ms. Bendeley, but right now the application, the way you fill it out is you have to completely fill out a page before you go to the next page. So our only other request is that it become viewable within one page so that we can assure our members that everything in this document is okay for you to sign off on. And right now we're not able to do that because you have to go through it page by page. So unless you're registering a child yourself, our organizations can't see what are in the online applications.
And that's being addressed.
That's being addressed.
So
Okay,
really,
good.
I really don't think there's an issue.
No.
So.
So thank y'all all for sharing.
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Garvey?
I have a question for Ms. Bendeley. has the Louisiana Family Forum weighed in on this issue?
As a formal organization, I don't want to speak for them. They have an employee who's here, but I know that she is also here wearing a different hat. She's affiliated. She is an employee of the Family Forum, but she is here on behalf of the organization. Is that right, Christy?
I'm here on behalf of Louisiana, Homeschool Louisiana, Chef of Louisiana. I think since the Homeschool Association was dealing with the issue, you know, we had a lot of other things we were working on with Family Forum, so I'm not here officially in that capacity, but certainly, you know, the organizations do work together.
Well, maybe I could ask you, have you heard of the Louisiana Family Forum having a problem with what's being proposed?
No.
Okay, thank you.
And for the record, I'm general counsel for Louisiana Family Forum.
So you probably would have heard.
So yeah, so that's why I'm saying I've, you know, got on my homeschool hat right now to, you know, for this specific issue. But yeah, there hasn't been any objections or problems raised on that front.
Wonderful, thank you.
Aaron, thank you for all your work. Appreciate it.
So the motion is on the floor to approve the revisions to Bulletin 741. Any other objections, comments, concerns? If none, the motion carries. Next item.
That concludes your agenda.